Our own ABC Karen Travers is at the G20 summit in Pittsburgh this morning. Karen, what's the view from the ground there? Obviously, a lot of news this morning with the president holding that impromptu press conference.
A lot of news, Yunji and David, and a lot of news that's almost overshadowing what the actual summit was intended to do. This was a G20 economic summit. There was going to be a lot of talk about regulatory reform, global financial crisis, how the economy has come back from the brink, as well as climate change. But I think the main headline that's going to come out of this, as you guys talked about at the top of the show, is that announcement this morning on Iran's nuclear facility, that secret nuclear facility that they've been developing. President Obama calling them out on this morning with Gordon Brown of Great Britain, as well as Nicolas Sarkozy of France, and the pressure that they're going to put on them going forward. This really tees up a really interesting meeting next week, October 1st, when the P5+1, that is the United States and allies like China, Great Britain, France, and Russia, sit down with Iran to discuss their continued pursuit of nuclear weapons and where they go from there. So I think this definitely ups the ante, if you will, on the international pressure and sets up a very interesting showdown next week.
Karen, the headlines this week, they've been about the nuclear non-proliferation speech that the president gave yesterday at the UN. They've been about his challenge to engage the world when he spoke the day before, a little bit on global climate change. Homegrown terror has been dominating the headlines. And now this issue with Iran, not healthcare. Is the White House happy with this week? And do they feel that they sort of got what they needed to get out of this big international week for the president?
They did, David. I think they went into this week knowing that this was going to be a foreign policy and national security week. That's why they had Joe Biden back in Washington holding two healthcare events and sort of stepping up his efforts to reach out to his former colleagues on Capitol Hill. Now, that didn't really cut through. We didn't hear much about what Biden was doing. Healthcare was definitely on the back pages, taking a back seat to national security and foreign policy. But I think the White House is going to look back at this week and think the key thing coming out of this was consensus. You had that unanimous resolution yesterday in the UN Security Council, the first time an American president chaired such a meeting, and then you're going to have agreement today. Secretary Geithner expects that there will be consensus on regulatory reform announced today at the G20 summit. So I think while the headlines may have been shifted away from healthcare, which is of course what we've been talking about for the last couple of months here, I think they're going to say this was a success because this was sort of President Obama's debut on the international stage as a host. He's of course gone to other countries, but this is the first time having everybody here.
Okay, and Karen, staying on that international tip, we're talking about Copenhagen, the possibility of the president going there to personally bid for Chicago. I know the First Lady's going, Oprah's now going. Do we expect to see the president there?
Tell us in
Oprah's
10 seconds.
Going, Secretary Duncan, Ray LaHood. I would be surprised if President Obama's not there. Everybody else seems like they will be.
Look at that. A Karen Travers prediction.
Absolutely.
With a fantastic new haircut. Karen Travers there in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yunji, thank you so much for filling in today. We appreciate it. That does it for this edition of Top Line. Be sure to click us on again tomorrow. You can always follow The Note at Twitter, twitter.com/The Note. Get all the latest political developments there, and at abcnews.com/politics. Thanks for watching.